Welcome back to the official Colorado Sports Hall of Fame podcast. I'm David Plati.
And I'm Jim Saccomano. We are your co hosts with over 90 years of experience combined working in Colorado sports. Myself with the Denver Broncos, and Dave with the CU Buffaloes, and both of us with the iconic Denver Bears, among our many other experiences.
We've been revealing 150 significant moments in Colorado sports history. The state's 150th birthday is now just 8 days away on August 1st, the date in 1876 that Colorado was admitted to the Union as a 38th state. A veteran committee ranked the top 50 of those moments, all called from over 2,000 that have been collected to date. Those are ranked by 19 people on that committee with over 800 years combined of covering and/or working in Colorado sports.
We are now into the top 10 of those moments, as we have covered numbers 7 through 150 in our previous podcasts. The top 50 moments were debated and then ranked by the committee. For numbers 51 through 150, we covered all areas of the state and most, if not all, sports, but were still very significant moments. We are archived on the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame website with our podcast. Just go to coloradosports.org, click on the menu bar, and then top 150 moments or podcasts.
But first, as we always like to do, here's a couple of moments in Colorado history that weren't in those 150.
On October 6th, 1951, the Colorado Buffaloes recorded their first ever win over a ranked team as the number 20 Kansas Jayhawks fell in Boulder 35-27. CU had been 0-4 versus the ranked teams coming in, but controlled the tempo from the start as CU led 14-0 early after a 2-yard touchdown run by Zach Jordan and a Tom Brookshire 65-yard punt return for a TD.
And I think people remember that Tom Brookshire paired for 7 or 8 years with Pat Summerall calling NFL games.
Yes, he did.
And on December 17th, 1962, in the AP Men's College Basketball Poll, Colorado was ranked number 6 with a 4-0 record, the highest to date any college team from the state has ever been ranked by the AP since it began its poll in 1949. 2 days earlier, CU had defeated Pepperdine 76-63. Jim Davis led CU with 21 points, with Ken Charlton adding 16.
This is Mark Johnson, voice of the Colorado Buffaloes. As we count down the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, it's worth remembering that great sports moments don't just happen. They're built on preparation, resilience, and staying healthy. And in Colorado, a great sports moment can mean something different to everyone, from Hall of Fame athletes to anyone who simply wants to keep moving. Whether you're chasing championships, personal bests, or just a pain-free morning run, the team at CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center delivers exceptional sports medicine care, from prevention to recovery to performance. Founded right here in Boulder, the CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center brings together CU medicine providers and Boulder community health clinicians to provide comprehensive care that's close to home and rooted in the community they serve. Learn more at cusportsmedicincenter.com.
And now our countdown continues.
The number 6 greatest moment in state of Colorado sports history.
On January 1st, 1991, a 2-year pursuit of the national championship came to fruition in an Orange Bowl rematch between Colorado and Notre Dame, this time with the Buffaloes prevailing 10-9. The Irish had squashed the U's dream the year before, so the Buffs were out for revenge. In another defensive battle, Charles Johnson replaced an injured Darian Hagan at quarterback in the second half and led the Buffs to the win.
Key defensive plays were by Ronnie Bradford, who blocked the Irish PAT kick after their only TD in the second quarter, and Dion Figures, who intercepted a Rick Meyer pass with 13 seconds remaining, running out the clock to secure the victory. Colorado became the consensus national champions with the win, having compiled an 11-1-1 record for the 90 season and 22-2-1 over the 2-year span.
I always slip consensus in there because that's what we were
That's
regardless of what Georgia Tech fans think. At this time, we'd like to welcome our guest for this podcast, national champion and three-time Big Eight Conference champion with the Buffaloes, quarterback Darian Hagan. Hags, welcome to our show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you. It's a great opportunity for me to be on your show, and I appreciate you guys for thinking about me at this present moment.
Well, we could have asked Alfred, but we asked him one question and we'd be back in 30 minutes.
You're right about that. He has the gift of gab.
So, before we get to the 1990 season, you were a freshman in 1988 and backing up the late Salinesi, but you showed glimpses at times of what laid ahead. What lied ahead? What laid ahead? Pick a verb. The, the next year, you're thrust into the spotlight when Sal fought and eventually succumbed to cancer. CU opens on Labor Day night against Texas in a nationally televised game, and on the second play, you fake the option and run 75 yards to the Texas 3. You once told me you had butterflies in your gut, I recall saying before that play. Tell us how that all unfolded.
Well, it all unfolded. I was like you said, I was thrust into the spotlight, and I knew I was prepared, knew I was ready. Um, but butterflies prevailed, and I remember Texas had a 6'9", three technique, and I'm out there, and I'm barely 5'10", and I'm looking around, and I'm like, oh. Now, welcome to big time college football. And once I, faked that, the option pitch and went 75 yards, the rest was history. I was all the butterflies were out the window, and it was all about, showcasing talent and showcasing, the ability that I had for as, learning and growing as a quarterback. It was a testament to Salinesi. It was a testament to Coach Barnett, and it was a testament to myself for being able to, to listen and unwind and make sure that I was performing at a high level um, for my teammates. That's what it was all about. It wasn't about Darian Hagan. It was about, the University of Colorado.
the season was dedicated to Sal. The Buffs steamrolled through the regular season, winning all 11 games, but Notre Dame ended a magical season. You still have to have great memories. After all, CU was ranked number one for the first time and did win the Big Eight title.
Correct. I had that was a great year. It was unfortunate it ended the way it ended, but it was a great year. And we were playing for Sal and Nessie. Prior to Sal getting sick, we were a bunch of guys that were, not really dedicated. We were selfish. We were playing for individual accolades, and once Sal was diagnosed with inoperable stomach cancer. I think the light switch went on for every person on our team, and we all started rowing in the same direction. We all wanted to make sure that once we stepped on the football field, that we were honoring Sal, and that's all we wanted to do. And it was a big testament when we played early in the year against Illinois when I think the first play of the game, we threw a deep ball to Jeff Campbell, and he caught the ball down the sideline, and he jumps up after getting tackled. He jumps up and he points to Sal in the luxury box, and Sal points back to him, and the whole crowd went crazy. Our team went crazy, and from that point on, it was go time, and we were playing like some angry men out there, and we were doing things that we needed to do to make sure that Sal was going to be proud of every time we went out there. That he knew it, we were playing for him. And once we had that Sal on our shoulder, on our left shoulder, that was a testament to our belief and our destiny.
What was amazing was, or maybe not amazing is the right word, but for him to pass away during our one open week, I
Right,
thought was something that, how does that happen?
right.
This way we gave him full attention. It wasn't during a game or anything, so that was pretty incredible in itself. Going
Right.
back quickly to '89, if we had to do a top 10 highlights in our history, I think two of them were that year. We had I called it the over the moon pitch at Oklahoma, the famous one where you can talk about that in a second. Then, of course, the 70-yard run against Nebraska, where you pitched the ball to JJ 40 yards downfield and he finished it up at 30. And I know
Right.
you have a little statistical point about that.
Right. Yeah, I've always said, why can't we split the yards? Not him get all 70. I think it's only fair that the person who ran for 30, 40 yards
I
gets,
agree.
I think it's only fair. you know. But to JJ's credit, I always have to say this. The year before we played against Nebraska and we lost 7-0, and JJ was going in for a score and he switched hands and he fumbled. So I always tell people that I ran the ball and I made sure I was looking for JJ and I pitched it to him at the last minute so he can get the glory because of what happened the year before. So, as a testament to JJ and a testament to long-standing facts, it was something that needed to be done. It was something that was done, unselfishly, and it was all about, like I said, since we started, it was all about the University of Colorado. And at that moment, I knew I had to get rid of that football.
Oh, that's an NCAA scoring rule at the time, by the way. So it wasn't us.
Right.
And then the over the moon pitch, and I think Sacco remembers this, is at Oklahoma. We're on the 1 yard line, and you were going down. You pitched the ball to him. What were you about? Maybe 2 feet off the ground?
Yes, I was literally parallel to the ground, and I remember going to the sideline and Coach Barnett says, "What was you thinking?" I said, "Coach, I knew it was a touchdown because the pitch key, which was the corner, he blitzed. He blitzed inside. So it wasn't a one outside. So I knew if all I had to do was get rid of it and put it in the area where just JJ can get to it, it was going to be a touchdown. And that's just what happened.
Sports Center #1 that night, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that was a memory that I'll never forget. And I show my current players that, and they just be amazed every time they see it. They're like, "Coach, what would you think? How did you do that?" I'm like, "Hey, we practice it all the time."
Okay, let's forward ahead to 1990. The Buffs are ranked fifth to open the season, opened with a tie against #8 Tennessee and Anaheim, rally late to beat Stanford, and drop a 23-22 game at Illinois, and LCU's 1-1-1, drop from fifth to 20th in the polls with the road game at #22 Texas next up. Trailing after three quarters and the Longhorns driving for another score, I think you're as good as anyone to recall what happened prior to the start of the fourth quarter that many consider the turning point of the season.
Yes, that right there, it was a testament to Eric Bieniemy and his leadership, Coach Mack and his leadership, and offense was talking to the defense was talking to the offense, and we knew that if we got the ball back, we could go down and we can score a touchdown and uh, and win the game, and that's exactly what we did. I think in that fourth quarter, I think I was like maybe 4 or 4 or 6 for 6 in pass completions, and Eric had some big runs. We had a big screen on him, hit a big pass to Mike Pritchard across the middle. And you know, it was a team effort, man. And I tell you what, that I played in some stadiums that were really loud and raucous, and when we scored that touchdown, to see all the people leaving Austin Stadium, man, it was unbelievable. It was a great feeling, and we knew that from that point on, all we had to do is play within ourselves, play for each other, and the sky was the limit. And that's exactly what happened. We played for each other, and we made sure that we tried to limit mistakes and we tried to capitalize on other teams' mistakes. And that's what we did, play complementary football. Offense did what we had to do, and defense did what they had to do. And then our special teams were really, really special as well. So it was a great opportunity to seize the moment, and that's exactly what we did.
And Alfred
No,
Williams added the icing on the cake with a safety, and CU wins 29-22.
Correct.
no,
Yeah.
So now you're back home to face number 12, Washington. Leading 20-14 late, the Huskies are inside the Buffs' 10-yard line. Dion Figures deflects the third down pass, and on fourth down, makes an interception in the end zone. How did you feel CU was back on track, 3-1-1 on the year, having played 4 ranked teams before league play began?
I thought we were rolling in the right direction. We were doing the necessary things that we had to do. Deion Figures. He's a really good defensive back, and he knew he was really confident, and we were confident as a team that we can do some great things. And Deion stood up tall in those 2 moments that he had, and we knew at that point, if we just continued to play within ourselves and play for each other, and not, commit turnovers and things like that, and, silly penalties, that no one could beat us. Every time we stepped on the football field, we were confident that no one can beat us. The only team that can beat us was ourselves.
Guess what? Fifth down time. We don't need to rehash it.
Right?
Missouri felt cheated and still do, but the field was crap. We
Yes,
knocked
it
down
was.
92 slips. They often talked about sportsmanship. We weren't, we should forfeit the game. That's not right. Coach Mack's religious. He's going against the Bible, things like that. But we weren't informed of bringing the right type of shoe for that field.
Right.
There was a risk of serious injury.
Absolutely.
You were held out initially with a slight ankle sprain, but CJ slipping all around. Gary put you in the third quarter. You tried to give it a go, and sure enough, you're slipping and sliding too.
Right.
What was it like to play on that ice rink of a field, and what do you recall mostly about the few days after?
It was terrible, trying to stay upright. I think we were told as a team that turf surface needed to be wet down, and that would cause the sand to actually harden, and now you be able to stay upright. And they didn't water it down, and that's why it was just a sand filled base. And it was really, really terrible, man. And it was something that I'll never forget. But at the end of the day, people always say, why didn't we, forfeit the game? Why didn't we give it back? Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? But I tell you this, as a football coach, as a football player, if the home team is not keeping track of first down, second down, third down, and so on, that's their fault. And they didn't keep track of it. The referees, they didn't keep track of it either. So that's not the University of Colorado's fault. We did everything we did because of the down markers. It said first down, second down, third down. And that's what we followed the rules. The other team, they didn't keep track of what was going on because they were so hell bent on the possibility of upsetting us. So why give that game back when we didn't do anything
No,
wrong?
you give nothing back. The Buffs
You
are
know,
rolling, and once
And as I always tell people, had we known it was fourth down, are we going to spike the ball? And did you see Missouri running onto the field after
yes,
CJ spiked it? Neither
yes,
neither happened. So, or the Missouri, they didn't do that. So you're like, well, very few people knew. I mean, I knew I was keeping running play by play, and I suspected something.
right,
Jerry Denardo suspected something, but we're up in the box anyway. But what are we going to do? There was 20 seconds between the fourth down play and the fifth down play anyway. So it's
right,
not like anybody was going to stop the game at that point. But had we had the right type of shoe, meaning a cleat that was, I forget the length of the cleats, but I think
right,
we needed the cleats with what, a 3/4 inch base or something, because
yes,
they wouldn't have slipped around. But with whatever we had, I think a fourth inch, sure enough, ice rink city.
right. Absolutely. We played with tennis shoe bottom, where Missouri played with actual regular football clicks you play on grass. So they knew what to wear. We didn't know what to wear. So we look at it as a turf field, this regular turf field, and that's what happened, man. And then to get ostracized because of of a mistake that we didn't make, that's unfair.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, you
Stop
know,
grapes.
And
Stop.
then
yes,
essentially, the 89 score, Colorado 49, Missouri 7. 91 score, Colorado 55, Missouri 7. And then
right,
between, we had that game.
right, exactly. So what does that tell you?
That's right. So the Buffs started rolling, and once again, you're playing Nebraska in what amounted to be for the Big 8 title, leading 12-0 at Lincoln going into the fourth quarter. Eric Bieniemy, who fumbled 4 times, scores 4 touchdowns to rally CU to a 27-12 win. What were the key moments in that turnaround?
I think the key moment was when Coach Mack he came to me and he says, "You need to go tell Eric to take his gloves off." And I'm like, "You want me to tell him what?" And he goes, "You're a quarterback. He'll listen to you." So I go over to him and I say, "Hey, man, you need to take your gloves off. You take your gloves off. I think you have a better handle on the football." And he gets all, in his feelings and he starts screaming and hollering. I start screaming and hollering. And then we just looked at each other, man, and we knew that it wasn't about him. It wasn't about me. It was about the program. No one's bigger than the program. He takes his gloves off, and the rest is history. He goes and scores 4 straight touchdowns, and we win the football game. And that's right there is a testament. Again, I like using the word testament because when I say testament, it means power. So Coach Mackey, he gave me the power to go and lead our team. And one of the guys I had to lead was a captain, and I had to go in and I had to tell him. I said, "Hey, man, you need to take those gloves off, and we'll win the football game." He did that after a heated discussion, and we hushed that crowd up, and we now we live in glory.
And you know what gets lost in the comeback? And I know you'll know this right away as soon as I mention his name. What significant role did David Gibbs play?
David Gibbs, he played us. You talking about in that game or all year?
No, that game when he sniffed something out.
Oh, and he sniffed out the fake.
Correct.
Yeah, he sniffed out the fake. He knew exactly what they were going to do by formation, and he sniffed it out, and we wind up. Did we wind up getting a tackle for a loss, or they changed the play? I forget.
I can't remember either.
I think we got a tackle for a loss between David Gibbs and Tim James.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And we took over deep in their territory.
Right.
So
And then that's when I threw the ball to Pritch on 3rd and 10, and he went up like 3 flights of stairs, man, and caught this ball against Bruce Pickens, and to keep the drive going, then the air goes in and scores, and that was it.
yeah. And of course, David Gibbs is a son of Alex Gibbs.
Yep. And David he's a senior analyst at Arizona State.
Good for David.
Yeah.
All right, now CU closes with 2 convincing wins over Okie State and Kansas State. The 64-3 win over the Wildcats was so lopsided that Coach Mack let linebackers Alfred Williams and Kanavis McGee play some at tight end. How much fun was that game and seeing those guys on offense?
That was awesome. It was awesome seeing those guys, because the whole time I was at CU, they both kept saying that they could help us at tight end, and we need to play them at tight end, especially in goal line situations and things like that. Uh, and we just always just like shot it down because we knew how good they were at the linebacker position, and we weren't going to do that. But when they got the opportunity, both of them, went out and did some things that were eye popping, and you know. They both were right. I think they could have helped us in the goal line situation, short yardage things, because I think that we would have even been that much more explosive on offense if we could have, utilized those two guys in those situations. But we didn't need to because we were deep
Mhm.
offensively and defensively. So, but to see those guys, be able to play a college football game and have a feather in their hat, man, that was awesome. And you're not allowed to do those things if your coach don't trust you, and you don't have a good football team. We had a good football team, and Coach was he was rewarding guys for being unselfish.
Alfred caught his for 17 yards, I believe, and Cadavis, I can't remember exactly if it was a bad pass or if he dropped it.
It was a bad pass. Hit him on the hip. Davis was tight hipped. He couldn't turn. He couldn't turn in his hips and get the ball. But CJ hit him on the hip. No, it was VJ.
VJ, that's right, Vance.
Yeah.
Well, the way things shook out, CU ascended to number one again and repaired with Notre Dame again in the Orange Bowl. Was that fine with you, or would you have liked to play someone else?
No, we it was fine with me. It was fine with me because it was a chance for revenge in my mind, and it was a chance to right the ship. We went into that game the year before, honoring Sal and that saying we wanted to play for him, and we didn't accomplish our goal. So to get that team again, uh and with Sal still on the forefront of our brains, we knew that we had an opportunity to go back and get revenge, and that's what was on our mind. That was a great feeling to have the opportunity to get to right that ship against those guys and Lou Holtz.
Now, the night before the game, tell us about the dream you had.
So the night before the game, uh, CJ was on the phone, talking to his wife. It was his girlfriend at the time, but they wound up getting married years later. But he was on the phone talking to her and talking loud, laughing, and I was tired, so I'm trying to sleep. And eventually, I was able to fall asleep, and I fall asleep, and I dreamed that I was going to get hurt. I was going to hurt my knee, and CJ was going to have to come in and win the ball game for us. So I woke CJ up like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, hey, CJ, man, I just had this dream. He goes, man, go back to sleep. What are you talking about? I said, I had a dream that I'm gonna get hurt in this game, and you're gonna have to come in. You're gonna have to win a game for us, man. He goes, man, you tripping? I said, no, I'm dead serious. I had this dream, and I believe it. And that's what happened. Going into the second quarter, I remember Coach Barnett telling me we had to save time on the clock. I had to slide, and I had never slid in my entire life other than playing baseball. And Coach told me to slide, and I slid, and I remember my left leg got caught up under me. And once it got caught up under me, and then it pops up, and I land to my right, my left leg pops up, and I just felt instant cold in my knee. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Moving my hand around on my left knee, and I can't feel my kneecap. So I lift my pants up, my thigh pad, my knee pad, and I could see my kneecap was in my thigh area. And I straightened my leg out, and my kneecap came back and got back into place, and then that's where I felt instant pain, and I knew I was done. And then the rest of history. CJ came in and played a great game. Got the MVP. And I'll never forget when CJ actually hurt his quad, late in the fourth quarter, and VJ was the backup, and I'll never forget VJ standing there, and I'm standing there on my crutches, and CJ's on the ground, and Vance looks at me, looks at CJ, go get up, boy. We tease VJ to this day about that. He did not want to go in that game. It was so funny. But
TV
that
must have
was
showed you on the sideline 20 times in the second half on crutches.
Yeah,
right.
that was another defensive battle with the Irish. They led
Yes.
3 at halftime. You were injured on the final play of the half. Then Cadavis McGee was also injured. So
Yep.
2 key players are out.
Right.
Notre Dame goes up 9-3. Charles Johnson leads the game-winning TD drive, and it's 10-9 CU. But the fourth quarter is still ahead. The full fourth quarter. You're on crutches, watching from the sideline. How nerve-wracking was that fourth quarter?
It was nerve wracking. It was big time. I knew I couldn't do anything, and I just felt that I was letting my teammates down, by being hurt. That's how competitive I am. and I was devastated by that. And I just kept saying to myself, my legacy is going to be like, a guy that got hurt in the national championship game, let his team down, and I was like, I couldn't live with it if that was to happen that way. And I just knew, I had to make sure that CJ stayed calm, he stayed level headed, because if he was to go down, that'd have been a tragedy. It'd have been a catastrophe because VJ wasn't ready to play. And, you know, uh, CJ was able to, just, do some good things with football. We were dinking and dunking the ball in the pass game. Um, and then, running ISOs with Eric Bieniemy and running some fullback dive stuff with George Hemingway. And, I think Coach Barnett actually Coach Donardo called a great game. And, it worked out for us. Defense kept that high scoring team, out of the end zone. So we just like I said earlier, we played complimentary football, and we did the necessary things we had to do to play, within our within our mentality. We didn't do anything that was going to jeopardize or give us you know, a, a a bad play at this point. Coach Hank on defense. We stayed aggressive with them. Play a lot of man to man because our corners can hold up against those guys. And we just knew that if all we had to do was isolate Chris George. If we could isolate Chris George and double team him, we know we could run the ball down the middle. And that's exactly what we did. We just isolated him with some double teams with Joe Gardner, Darren Muhlenberg, and Jay Lundberg. Uh, and That's how we were able to, win that game.
You had to be a little bit bummed that CJ took what could have been your spot on the Tonight Show.
Absolutely. I'll always give CJ a hard time. Like, man, all you did was hand the ball off and you got MVP.
He completed 5 of 6 passes on the TV drive, though. But,
Right. No, that's what I was saying about the dinking and dunking. We did a lot of, play action stuff with CJ, and he was able to hit George Hemingway out of the backfield a couple times. I think he hit tight end Parrot Bowman actually a couple times across the middle. Um, so no, he was it was a great opportunity, for a guy that just played sparingly most of the year, or when I got hurt, for him to go in and play and play within the framework of the understanding of what we were trying to do on offense. He was always cool as a cucumber, so he never got rattled. He never got played outside of what he could do as a football player. And that's why he was successful in that game, and that's why he's successful in life. He knows who he is. Doesn't try to do too much. Doesn't try to do nothing less. He knows just who he is, and he knows how to do it. He knows how to handle himself, and that's what he did. 30 years ago.
and in the book I'm writing, we actually have a chapter called Untold Stories, and we totally delve into that weekend of when he went out to the Tonight Show. And I'm sure he told you this, but he gets out there, and Johnny and Ed McMahon found him ahead of the show, and CJ claims they were a little bit tipsy. They went out in the street, and Ed McMahon is snapping the ball to CJ, who's throwing passes to Johnny Carson.
Really?
Oh, he never told you that?
No.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So. And of course, the Rocket returns the punt for the parent TD. I missed it live because Bill Crowder had me in the locker room throwing out NBC Miami, which had set up. But anyway, I come out and there's a celebrating going on. But Tim James was clipped. And Lesnar talked about, if you look at the 22, all 22, Ronnie Bradford was being held. And
Yes.
Ronnie almost caught him. And so,
Yes.
so the play's wiped out. Dion makes a game-ending pick. How did you feel at that point? Because everybody's jumping at everybody, but you're on crutches. I mean, did anybody come over and kind of hug you and be gingerly treating you?
Yes. VJ came over and gave me a hug. I'll never forget that. Dave Burton and Dr. Gersoff. They came over and they hugged me, and then I was pretty much just trying to stay on the peripheral and not get into the skirmish. Uh, but it was something that when Dion caught that ball, it was icing on the cake because the year before Dion was suspended for the season, and for him to be make that interception and at that moment and on that grand stage, I felt for him. Um, but more importantly, our he saved our season, and we were able to be crowned national champions because in that moment, you know, Dion did the right thing. He jumped in front of, if they were trying to run a corner route, and he jumped in front of the corner route and picked it off, and he ran around and I slid and ran the clock out. Um, so I was proud of everything that we did, leading up to that game. We did everything we were supposed to do. We did it the right way. Nobody broke curfew. No one did anything selfishly. It wasn't about nobody, but our program, man. And we stood together. We stood tall. And I tell my players to this day, man, when your moment is called, you got to be ready for your moment because you never know when that moment's going to happen again.
That's right.
You know what? If people don't remember or realize it is, remember Notre Dame's kicker, he had a powerful leg. If that pass is completed, there's probably, there's 13 seconds to go, but
Yeah,
maybe they run up another play, maybe they don't. But
right,
at that point, it's like a 52, 54-yard field goal.
right.
I'm sure they're not going to throw a Hail Mary. They're going to trot him out. So Dion's play was huge. And then at the end, he just got, they threw all those flags because it would have been personal foul city.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the main culprit was Ricky Waters. Ricky Waters face masked him. He was trying to he was pushing after he was trying to fight and all this stuff. I'm like, come on, dude. You know, I actually about a year ago I played in a golf tournament in Rancho Santa Fe and with Scott DeGoler, and he paired me in a foursome with Rick Meyer.
Hmm.
That was pretty cool, to see that guy. First thing I said to him, I was like, "Hey, man, that was a great game, and thanks for throwing that interception." And we had a good laugh and everything. But man, he looks like he's about 65 years old.
Thank you for throwing that interception.
he,
What?
he he just laughed, man. It was awesome.
That's great.
As a senior in 1991, you also were the Buffs' top punt returner. Unheard of in modern times to have the quarterback return punts. It wasn't exactly like Byron White doing both in
Right.
1937. How did that come about?
Well, it came about because we had Rico Smith, he was our starting punt returner. He had got hurt, and Eric Mitchell was the next guy up, and Eric was a little bit, razzed back there, a little bit, he wasn't the guy that was going to be sure-handed. And I told Coach Mack, I said, Coach, I returned punts in high school, and I can still return punts. And he goes, "No, we're not going to do that." I was like, Coach, you know, the only way I'm gonna get an opportunity to play in the NFL or even get a look is to play special teams. So, if I can return punts, I think that'll help me out down the road. And he looked at Coach Barnett, and then Coach Barnett gave him the shoulders and threw his palms up and was like, "Hey, let's do it." Yeah, I trust it. I trust him. And he watched me return punts, catch punts in practice, and the rest was history. He was like, "Yeah, you're gonna be the starting punt returner." Because he knew and he also said, "I think I owe you this opportunity for all the things you've done, since you've been here."
Nice.
So, yeah,
And I think you were in the top, you finished the year in the top 20. I can't remember exactly where, but you were
yeah,
one of the nation's top punt returners.
yeah. I remember that. It was fun, man. It just every time I went back to return a punt and to hear the crowd just lose it. It just gave me that much more confidence. It made me more confident that it was the right decision. It was cool. It was crowd pleasing, and this business of football, especially now, you know, it, it's totally different now. It's football is not the same, in my opinion. You don't play the game of football because you love it. You now these guys are playing the game of football for a paycheck, which is I don't like that, but it is what it is. It's a long time in the making. You know, uh, I told my running back, who was he's the highest paid on our team. I told him, I was like, man, good thing you guys are getting paid now, because if I would have got paid back like you guys are getting paid back in 89, 90, you guys never would have met me. And like, why we wouldn't have met you, coach? I said, I wouldn't need to coach. I would have invested that money, buddy.
Well, I remember you didn't even have enough money to buy a winter coat because you were from LA. You didn't have winter coats.
Right. Yeah, I no, I didn't. I never had a big jacket. Um, all my jackets were lightweight jackets. And I think the very first snow we had, Jimmy Webb gave the guys on the team that was from California those big sideline parkers that we wore over our shoulder pads. So he gave those away because they were getting ready to get rid of them anyway because they were all blue.
That's right.
So
So going back to your punt returns, you may have had number three on your back, but I think opponents had a bullseye.
oh yeah, absolutely. Teams were they were trying to come down and trying to get me. Uh, but I tell you this, when I was back there, the guys on our punt return unit, they knew that they had a job to do, and all they had to do was just get in the way of someone, put your hands on someone, and all I needed was a crease. And that's exactly what they did. They went above and beyond their blocking duties. It was always 1,000% effort when I was back there. And I appreciate those guys for doing that, because they got energized when I was back there, because they knew at any moment anything could happen, for the good. And that made me feel good. They were always encouraging, man, oh, you need one more block, one more block. I'm like, yeah, one more block. But it was cool, man. When I see the guys and the guys see me, man, it's just instant reflection of the things that we did together, man. You know, uh, all the guys that I played with, not all of them, but I would say at least 70% still live here in Colorado. That's how special this place is. Being a lot of guys being from Texas, a lot of guys being from California, a lot of guys being from, we got guys from New York, got guys from Georgia, we got guys from Kansas, that those places were near and dear to them. But when they came here, the memories and the tradition and the brotherhood, that made everyone stay here and stay connected with each other. We talk on the phone a lot. We're in group threads. It's true brotherhood, and the direction that and the men that coach was able to corral and able to lead, are all doing good things, because like Coach Mack used to always say, everything rises and falls on leadership. And when you have a great leader like Coach Mack was, and he's a leader of great men, it's all trickle down effect. So, Coach Barnett, same thing. He's a leader of men, and we had great quarterback room. And then when he became the head coach, a lot of his players, they still live here. It was just blood, sweat, and tears, man. And University of Colorado is a special place, special things, man. And, I miss it. I definitely miss it. I miss it here. But San Diego State, where I'm at now, it's a great place. I love it. Coach Lewis is awesome. He's a great coach. He's a great man. Uh, One thing I say about Coach Lewis is he's a guy that's going to let you do your job, He's going to let you lead your men and let you lead your room. At the same time, with that being said, you still got to produce. You got to have, produce results. And we're in the business to develop these young men, and that's what we're doing a really good job of is developing guys, and guys that want to be developed, and guys that want to be at San Diego State, and that's why we've been successful there.
Well, great. Well, Darian, we really appreciate you taking the time out to join us today. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
I did. It was awesome. I thank you guys for having me on, and
Thank you, Darian.
no, thank you. Anytime you guys want to talk ball or want to get me back on, shoot me a text, call me, and I'm here for you guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Maybe we'll have you on to talk about your career in Canada if you still have any Canadian quarters.
Right? No, that'd be awesome. Yeah, anytime.
Right. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Pasta J's at 10th and Pearl Street in Boulder, CU Sports Medicine, the Colorado Collegiate Chronicle, produced by Tim Simmons and Mark Johnson, for introducing each moment's number.
We do hope you are enjoying our podcasts, reminiscing with our trips down memory lane in the state's sports history. That's a wrap on our 41st podcast. A reminder, though, that the Hall of Fame offers tours of its museum and the stadium, as well as Empower Field a mile high.